Why the middle class is disappearing. Imagine this: waking up in the morning, working hard every day, doing everything right, going to school, getting a job, paying bills on time, yet still feeling like life keeps getting more expensive while paychecks barely stretch to the end of the month. For decades, being part of the middle class was the ultimate goal. It meant stability, owning a home, sending kids to college, maybe taking a vacation once a year. But now, that dream feels like it's slipping further away. And here's the shocking part. The middle class, once the backbone of modern economies, is shrinking, disappearing right before our eyes. This isn't just about numbers or statistics. It's about a silent transformation that affects millions of families, reshaping society in ways many people don't notice until it's too late. If the middle class disappears, what happens to the balance that keeps economies stable? What happens to communities built on the promise of opportunity? That's what this video is about, and by the end, the picture will be much clearer and a lot more urgent. Let's rewind to the golden years of the middle class. After World War II, something extraordinary happened. Wages were rising, industries were booming, and for the first time in history, ordinary workers could afford homes, cars, and college educations for their kids. It was a time when one income could support an entire family, and upward mobility felt like a real possibility. The middle class became more than just an economic category. It was a way of life, a promise that hard work would pay off. But fast forward to today, and that promise is breaking down. Prices for housing, healthcare, and education have skyrocketed, while wages have barely moved. A home that cost 3 times an average salary decades ago might now cost 6, 8, or even 10 times as much. College tuition that was once manageable now buries graduates under mountains of debt before they even begin their careers. Meanwhile, healthcare bills are high enough to push families into bankruptcy after just one medical emergency. It's like the middle class has been standing on an escalator going up, but suddenly the escalator turned into a treadmill. No matter how fast they move their feet, they're stuck in the same place, sweating harder but not getting ahead. At the same time, something else has been happening at the top. The wealthy have been pulling further and further ahead, scooping up more of the economic pie. While the middle class struggles to keep up with rising costs, billionaires and corporations are multiplying their fortunes at record speed. And on the other end of the spectrum, the working poor are growing in number, stuck in low-paying jobs with little hope of climbing up. This isn't just inequality, it's polarization. Society is slowly splitting into two extremes: the very wealthy and the struggling poor, with the middle thinning out like the vanishing cream in an Oreo cookie. The big question is, how did this happen? How did the backbone of modern economies start to crumble? Part of the answer lies in globalization and automation. As industries chased cheaper labor overseas, millions of stable middle-class jobs disappeared. Factories that once anchored entire towns closed their doors, leaving behind unemployment and despair. At the same time, technology replaced countless routine tasks. Machines, software, and now artificial intelligence are doing jobs that used to provide solid incomes for human workers. Progress created wealth, but it also left many behind. Then there's the financial system itself. Over the past few decades, credit became the lifeline of the middle class. When wages stagnated, people turned to loans, credit cards, and mortgages to keep up the lifestyle they thought they could afford. For a while, it worked, until it didn't. The 2008 financial crisis was a brutal wake-up call. Millions lost their homes, savings, and jobs. And while the wealthy recovered quickly, many middle-class families never bounced back. It was a reminder that the system wasn't designed to protect everyone equally. Another factor quietly eating away at the middle class is the rising cost of essentials. Think of it as a game of musical chairs. The music keeps playing, people keep walking, but every round, more chairs are removed. For the middle class, those chairs are affordable homes, debt-free education, and accessible healthcare. As each one vanishes, more families find themselves standing without a seat, slipping downward into financial insecurity. But here's where things get even more concerning. The disappearance of the middle class isn't just an economic issue. It's a social one. A strong middle class acts like glue, holding society together. It reduces crime, increases political stability, and builds trust in institutions. Without it, the gap between rich and poor widens, resentment grows, and divisions deepen. History shows that when the middle shrinks, polarization doesn't just affect bank accounts, it affects entire nations. Take a look at countries with extreme inequality, where the middle class barely exists. They often struggle with political instability, higher crime rates, and weaker democracies. The middle class provides balance. Without it, the seesaw tilts dangerously toward extremes. So, what does the future look like if this trend continues? Picture two worlds coexisting in the same city. On one side, luxury apartments, self-driving cars, and elite private schools. On the other, overcrowded housing, gig workers hustling from job to job, and families choosing between groceries and healthcare. It's not science fiction, it's already happening in many places. The disappearance of the middle class also creates a dangerous cycle. As fewer people can afford to spend on goods and services, businesses catering to everyday consumers struggle. That leads to fewer jobs, which further weakens the middle class. Meanwhile, luxury markets thrive because the wealthy keep spending. Over time, the economy shifts towards serving the top, leaving the rest behind. But here's the twist. This story doesn't have to end in collapse. There are ways to rebuild and strengthen the middle class, but it requires conscious choices. History offers examples. During the mid-20th century, policies supported strong unions, fair wages, affordable education, and access to housing. These created the conditions for the middle class to thrive. Today, similar bold moves are needed. Policies that ensure workers share in productivity gains, investments in education that don't trap students in debt, healthcare that doesn't bankrupt families, and housing markets that don't price out entire generations. Technology, too, can be part of the solution. While automation replaces some jobs, it can also create new ones if training and adaptation keep pace. The challenge is making sure innovation doesn't just benefit the top, but lifts everyone. And perhaps most importantly, a cultural shift is needed. One that redefines success not just as individual wealth, but as collective stability. A society where prosperity is broadly shared is more resilient, more innovative, and more just. The disappearing middle class might sound like a slow, invisible process. But it's like climate change. Gradual at first, then suddenly obvious. The cracks are already showing, and ignoring them only makes the collapse come faster. The real cost of doing nothing isn't just economic decline. It's the unraveling of social trust, stability, and opportunity. So here's the takeaway. The middle class is more than just a group of people earning a certain income. It's the foundation of modern life, the balance that keeps society steady. Watching it disappear should concern everyone, because when the middle vanishes, so does the promise of upward mobility, the belief that tomorrow can be better than today. The world now stands at a crossroads. Continue down the current path, and the gap between rich and poor will stretch until it snaps the very fabric of society. Choose a different path, and there's still time to rebuild the middle, to restore the balance, and to keep that promise alive for future generations. The question is, which path will society choose?